Hello and welcome to telechakkar.com. Today we are speaking to Nisha Pahuja, a documentary filmmaker from Canada. Her film, The World Before Her, is releasing across select theatres in India today. The film is really special on several grounds. Not only does it really change the way you look at a documentary, in fact it engages you, enthralls you and involves you so much into the characters that after seeing this film, you are never ever going to forget these characters. You're also going to think deeply about what an Indian woman means to you, how you are being conditioned as an Indian woman, the entire country and forces larger than yourself, larger than your family, including political forces, forces of beauty, capitalism, are shaping how the Indian woman thinks and what she thinks power is all about and how she believes in what is called so-called empowerment. Nisha will tell us much more about it. Welcome, Nisha.
Hi. That was such a great description. I don't know if I have anything to say after that. That was great.
Right. The film was so great that it really evokes a lot of passion, actually. And congratulations, first of all. You won this award. Tell us a little about this award.
So the film actually was the opening night documentary at the Tribeca Film Festival in 2012, and it won the prize there, the Best Documentary Prize. And then since then it's gone on to win about 19 awards worldwide. Yeah. So it's done very, very well on the festival circuit. And it's taken me just over a year, and now finally we're releasing the film in India, which is very, very important and very special.
Absolutely. So what do you think, after receiving so much acclaim outside, how do you think, what are your expectations out here? I mean, this is a sensitive subject in some ways. Yeah. What do you think?
You know, I've been really lucky in that most people who see the film have a very warm and a very positive response, and it feels like that right now. It feels like you know, India is really embracing the documentary, and it's really embracing this subject. And I think a lot of that has to do with having Anurag Kashyap. And Anurag had heard of the film, and I said, look, I'm looking for somebody to help me present the film in India. So he said, well, मैं देख लूँगा. मैंने सोचा ये नहीं देखेगा. You know, because he's so busy, you know. Okay. But he did actually. He watched the film 2 दिन के बाद, and he said he loved it. And he said, you know, whatever, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get behind you. So.
So that was your biggest challenge in getting people to see out here, or there must have been several challenges even during the making of it, starting point till now. What do you talk about it a little?
There were lots of, you know, I mean, for just making the film, it was difficult first of all to get access, you know, into especially the Durga Vine camp. That took a very long time. Then once we got access in both worlds, actually maintaining the access became very problematic because the material is sensitive and, you know, there's a lot going on. So we were constantly renegotiating our access to in both worlds.
So would they object to it? Did they allow you in, especially in that section when Jamuna Pai is injecting that Botox? What happened at that time?
Well, see, it's interesting, you know, I mean, this whole hangama with Dr. Jamuna Pai actually, see, for me it feels like, you know, what we're doing is we're criticizing an individual, and that's not the point. You know? The point is that we ask questions about the system.
Right.
You know, we ask questions about the reality that is shaping these young girls' choices, you know? And it means that we have to ask questions about ourselves and the world that we're living in and the society that we're living in. So she is just a representative of a larger issue, you know, and I think what's happened is she's, as an individual, is being demonized, is being attacked.
But the point is that it's a girl, the girls willingly go through it.
Yes.
At the last moment they may object to it, like this particular girl was probably objecting to the injection, but ultimately they are all willing to go through the whole process because they believe that the crown matters.
Yes, and you know, it's an interesting, I mean, that's the point of the film, right, is in some ways it questions how much do any of us really choose. You know, that was what I was trying to get across, to make all of us think, as opposed to looking at either side with sort of a with any kind of prejudice.
Yeah, there was no judgment that came across in the film.
That was important for me. And then in terms of the Durga Vaini, that took close to 2 years. It took almost 2 years to get access, like a year and 8 months or 9 months. So that took quite some time, and it was a process of really me deciding to base myself, in India and trying to build trust with people in the movement. And I knew that it would come slowly, and that you can't ask permission for something this big so quickly, that you have to let people get to know you, and you have to let them, trust you and realize that you're not going to do something sensationalist.
Did you know somebody at the political level who helped you through this?
I got to know people, not at the political level, but people who had a fair bit of power within the movement, within the VHP. So that's actually how I got the access. So part of it was my own work on the ground, and then part of it was Prachi and her father introduced me to a couple of people. So that's how we were finally able to.
Okay. Yeah, and it took 3 to 4 years, I believe.
It took almost 2 years to gain access, but the film,
2 years.
almost 2 years, close to 2 years, and then but the film took 4 years to make from start to finish.
Yeah, and another 1 year to come to India.
Yes, another 1 year to come to India.
Yeah, so while you were dealing with these nationalists, did you fear the story where you started from the beauty business to veering towards fundamentalism, and how did you go about drawing parallels between the two?
Well, it's interesting when you're making the process of making documentaries is very different in some sense from the process of making a feature film. So a lot of times, what happens with documentaries is you have to really listen. And sometimes the story often the story, it finds you. You don't necessarily find the story. The story finds you. So it's a very interesting process, a very organic kind of process. So that's what happened, So initially the film was just going to be about Miss India. Then I started to read about opposition and Hindutva groups who were opposed to the pageant, and feminist groups who were opposed to the pageant. Then I started to realize I needed to incorporate, these voices as well. Then I meet Prachi, and Prachi says, we have these Durga Vaini training camps, So it was all just a very natural, organic process, the way it worked out. So,
Okay. And Prachi seems to, at times, because of the kind of woman she is, seems to take over the story at times, but the film manages to go back to the beauty aspect and balances the two. Was it difficult to get across to Ruhi in a way, because she's not given to introspection the way Prachi is given to it, or really questioning anything too much? What was going on with Ruhi at that time? Yeah,
for sure. That was definitely, the other thing, of course, when you're making a film is you're looking for, it's like you're casting. It's not dissimilar, because you have certain ideas that that are important, and your narrative also demands certain conventions, like any kind of form of storytelling. So you're looking for interesting characters, and so Ruhi had certain elements that were wonderful. She had a family that was very supportive, and a father that was really supportive, and we knew that was important. To show, that not all Indian men are one particular way. Ruhi's father was so loving and so supportive, so we needed that in the film. We also needed somebody who had the same ability to be self-analytical, and Ruhi doesn't have that capacity the way Prachi does. Ankita had that.
Yeah.
So that was part of our reason, that we knew Ankita was important. We knew she was going to win. Like, you can tell when you go into these pageants, who the top 5 contestants are. Just automatically you can tell. So it was clear that Ankita was going to be one of the winners, or at least one of the top 5. And she also had this, she had this kind of feminist perspective. For her, Miss India really was a launching pad to empowerment and freedom. And that was a very important perspective for us to get across. That and the fact that she was also, she was aware, she was self-aware, you know? Like she says that wonderful line in the film, you know, at one point you realize this is it comes at a price.
At what risk, at what cost.
Exactly, and is it worth it? You know? So we needed somebody that could, in that world, who had the same sensitivity as somebody like Prachi.
So most girls, you believe, even otherwise, you know, either at this beauty pageant or across the world, international beauty pageants, do you think they are like this? They don't question it too much. They are okay with what the mentors tell them and going through the parading, etc.
I don't. I think a lot of people, like all of us, we make compromises. You know, it's just human nature, right? That you have a line, and some, it's just where that line falls, you know. But people cross it all the time. But that doesn't mean that you're not constantly questioning your choices or aware that your choices might be problematic or you know, have shades of grey to them. So I think a lot of the girls probably they, you know, in moments of quiet, you know, I'm sure they do wonder, you know, what are we doing? Is it worth it?
And I believe you're making another film again to do with fundamentalism, right?
Yeah, no.
Okay, but you started off from Bollywood bound, I think, and there also it was following people who are chasing their dreams. Here also dreams of different sorts.
Yes.
One is of Hinduism, one is of beauty. So is that a subject that fascinates you per se?
Definitely. I think it's, you know, the idea of, and the other film that I made was about diamonds, you know. So for me it's always the idea of what something, you know, the surface meaning of something and then the deeper meaning of something. What does it really mean? You know, why do these young people from Canada, you know, who've been born and raised in Canada, what does it mean for them to want to come all the way back to India to become film stars? What is, you know, what's at the root of it? It's not just a search for fame or glamour. There's something deeper. So I think I'm always sort of fascinated by people's motivations.
And what did you discover at that point?
In terms of Bollywood? Oh, definitely it had to do with racism. You know?
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you grow up as an NRI, it's changing now, but when we were growing up as young people, you don't see yourself reflected in the mainstream. You're invisible, you know, and if you're invisible, it's almost like you're not valid. Your experiences aren't validated. They don't mean anything. So you don't see yourself, you know, and so you're constantly searching for some kind of validation, some kind of connection to a bigger idea, to a bigger sense of community, to a country that accepts you. So for a lot of those young people we grew up thinking, you know, India was Bollywood, you know, and we all gravitated towards India because of Amitabh Bachchan, you know, and Hindi cinema.
Yeah,
so
that's a huge influence.
It's a huge influence.
Yeah. It sort of made people seek self-identity.
Definitely. Identity and home. You know, you were looking for home.
That's home.
Yeah, and that's, I remember when I was a kid and just going to the movies, you know, with my brothers, and what that felt like, you know, when you were 10 years old, you know, and we'd walk back and we'd recite all the dialogue from Divar and, you know, and Amra Branthini. It was so powerful, right? And we felt this real connection to a different place, like, you know, we felt a sense of belonging that we didn't feel in Canada necessarily.
That's incredible how Bollywood has actually done a lot of good also.
Yeah,
of course
that's
it
very
entertains,
powerful.
but it's very good.
Yeah.
And it's powerful, powerful medium that influences in a positive way.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
Yeah.
And besides that, first you were an NRI child, and through these people you've covered, and now that you are in India and you have seen much more than we see in terms of the nationalism, you've seen a lot more that is going on in India. How has that changed your perception of the country and being an Indian?
It hasn't changed. I think what it's done, it's not really changed my perception of the country. It just gives you a deeper understanding of the reality, not just of the country, but of the world and also of yourself. I think for me this film was a really great teacher. You know, it really taught me a lot of things. It taught me to see, to look at things in a much bigger, much bigger way, and to actually really not be judgmental. You know, to just almost accept everything as a process of evolution. You know, and I think that's why I didn't judge either world. You know, I realized that both of these realities exist for a reason, and the important thing is to understand those reasons. You know, and I feel like in some sense, it's like, you know how people go through stages in their life as individuals. So I think countries also, it's like nations do the same thing. So I think in some sense, India as a country is also exploring and figuring out what it is.
I sense a lot of compassion in you as a filmmaker when you were covering this. There was the lack of judgment came through that sense of compassion and understanding from where the other people are coming from.
Thank you.
So that was very interesting also, you know, objectively speaking, the way the film was showing these people. And where are these two women now? Any idea? Have you shown the film to them?
So Prachi, she was just calling actually when you came.
Right.
So Prachi is great. I mean, she's, you know, I speak to her all the time. And Ruhi, we had a premiere a week ago or something, so she was there for the right, and so was Pooja and her mom. It was really wonderful. And Pooja just sent me a text. So everyone's very excited about the film. They're very proud of it. They're very proud to have been part of it. And they're very looking forward to, you know, what happens and having a good response. So and they're doing well. I mean, Pooja, of course, is she was in Commando, so I think now she's
I know that.
so she's doing something else, another film. And Ruhi also just finished a film. And Prachi is now living in Pune. On her, she's not living at
on her
home
own without her father. Oh, that's an amazing change.
It's amazing. She got a law degree.
So
she finished law school.
She's turned out to be a true rebel.
Yes. In some ways, she really has. She's a very strong, independent, intelligent woman. So she's going to make her way in the world.
Yes. And it was interesting the way she spoke about Gandhi and the beliefs that she had. With a lot of strong conviction.
With a lot of conviction and you know, and as she keeps sort of saying, you know, it wasn't that she was against him necessarily. It was
it's
also
a self-defense thing and what the country requires. That came across very clearly. So what about you? You know, before you started the documentary, the world before you, what it was and what it is now. What has been the difference in that sense?
As a woman, it's an interesting thing because I think from me, in some way this process was actually kind of really being able to, sort of understand what it means to be a woman, like to ask those questions again, because when you do grow up in the West, there is a level of equality where you don't question gender necessarily, you know? So that was, so coming back here and making this film, it really forced me to confront a lot of the issues that I dealt with as a young Indian woman, growing up in a very conservative family, and also with my mum, you know, and the issues that she had to deal with my father. So I think the process of making it painful memories of, you know, being a teenager and having to deal with a problematic father, and seeing the things that my mother had to go through. But then it also brought a greater understanding of him, you know, of both my mother and my father, you know, and an understanding in some sense that this system of patriarchy is limiting not just for women but also for men. That it binds all of us. It puts all of us into a certain role, you know. It actually takes my freedom away as well as, you know, my father's freedom away. He also has to act given the confines of patriarchy. So that was something that I think, you know, I took away, and I think it really helped in some sense my relationship with him. And he's also incredibly proud of this film.
Oh,
which
that's
is
awesome.
really amazing. Yeah, my
That's
parents
really,
they're
yeah.
very, they're
That's
really
what
proud.
we all seek ultimately.
It means a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely, it means a lot to
Yeah.
know that
Parents
they're happy.
feel that.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay, I think that's your best award.
yeah, it certainly is a good one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, on that note, I wish you all the very best for your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for this interview, and thank you for making this film.
Thank you.